This is the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio, in another Town Hall Academy. I got a great episode here, falling in love with your business all over again. So many of us have been hitting the grind for a lot of years and sometimes don't stop to take a little moment of reflection and say, you know, I really love what I do. I really love what I do. At least that's what the wife says all the time. Can't you slow down? I love what I do. So let's talk about falling in love with your business all over again. Thank you so much to our great sponsors, NAPA Tracks, today's class, KUKUI, and Pit Crew Loyalty. Hey, for over 30 years, NAPA Tracks has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. We'll prove to you that Tracks is the single best shop management system in the business. Find NAPA Tracks on the web at napatracs.com. Hey, how well does your team know their stuff? Test their automotive skills with the Today's Class Basic, Advanced, or Service Advisor quizzes. It's a quick, effective way to spot gaps and grow stronger teams. Take the quizzes now at todaysclass.com/TC quiz. Shop owners, stop juggling multiple marketing tools. KUKUI's integrated platform, they deliver 4 times better website conversions, automated follow-up, and real-time ROI tracking. Get industry-leading customer support with KUKUI. That's KUKUI.com. You're probably tired of chasing new customers who never return. We understand. Pit Crew Loyalty ends the one-and-done cycle, turning first visits into lasting, reliable revenue. On the web at pitcrewloyalty.com. Okay, everybody, here's my panel. Wow. Jimmy Alauria, 3A Automotive Diesel Repair, Phoenix, where the weather's always nice. 50 years in business. He was telling me that his dad started the business when he was born. Cool thing. Now I know how old you are. The finalist in the Better Business Bureau Torch Awards for Ethics. I have a friend in Buffalo that happened to.
Yeah, we're hoping to win that next week.
Nice. My friend did win it last year. He did. He went as a finalist and then was nominated the winner. That's a cool thing to have happen. And also, Campbell, California. Is that up in the mountains?
No, right next to San Jose.
Ah, got it, Dave.
Heart of Silicon Valley.
And so you don't really get snow there, do you?
No.
Never, ever.
Well, I mean, once in every 40 years, maybe. You know, in the valley, so we get snow around us. But, you know, here in Campbell or in the valley floor, if it snows, you know, once every 20 or 30 years, and then it lasts for about 10 minutes. It's very exciting.
Owner of Auto Trend Diagnostics, Campbell, California, as I said, and very, very active in our association, ASCCA, out in California. And somehow you manage all the laws that they create, one new law a day that affects how you run your business?
I don't know if it's that many specifically for us, but yeah, the legislative session will start again in January, and we figure a good, 1,500 to 2,000 bills would be introduced. And it runs the gamut for everything, but we get, a dozen or so new bills and regulations we have to deal with every year.
Because people just love to regulate.
That's regulator's job. That's what they do.
Do me a favor, don't get me started.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm sure both of you. Hey, look, so every business really begins with a dream. Jimmy, I'm sure your dad had one on a vision of what I could build and create. Being in the automotive repair business, a lot of us started in the backyard, and then we put up a barn, and then we worked in there, and it got too big, and we wanted to expand and grow. And I love the idea of remembering the initial dream that fueled the ambition that we had to run our business. And I got great talking points from these guys. This is going to be an episode that I think are going to allow you to even spend some dream time as you listen to what they have to say. But Jimmy, I want to talk about this one really important, I love this one. Make the game of shop much bigger than I can play myself. So think about that. Oh my God. I've created something I've never done before. This could be fun.
That's really what it took for me to get excited a couple years ago. Was my wife and I had bought the business from my family. This year's 50 years in business. We've been going for 10 years since we bought it. And it was like, well, what's the next game? I've done speaking in the industry. I've done consulting and stuff, but that's just that really warms my heart and helps me. But I started looking at the shop going, we've got to grow, because if you're not growing, then you're shrinking, really. I mean, where's the business going? And the only way that I could really get excited about that was saying, okay, well, I don't want to go back in and manage this thing anymore. I've been there, done that. So I want to bring my key people up with me and go, okay, where's the bigger vision? How many locations are we going to be at? And then start looking at the lifestyle that the business has afforded me and my family, to the staff, the key people that are part of that, and give them the tools that they need to take us to places we've never even thought were possible.
One of the things that I think about a lot in this whole concept of falling in love with your business again is to get in front of your people and explain to him what your original dreams were. Because a lot of people who work for us, you've been around forever, Dave, and, it's your place, and I'm coming to work here, or I've been here for years, but we really never knew what was that driving impotence that put you here. And when I hear about sharing that with people, it almost enlivens the culture, because now they have something more to hang themselves onto. It's your dream and they're part of it.
Yeah, glad you said culture, because that's, I think, a big part of all of our businesses. And, I, much like Jimmy, I industry trainer, speaker, do all that stuff and really enjoy doing that. And we talk about culture. And finally, somebody asked me, it's like, Dave, what does that mean? What is culture? Right? And it's like, I guess not everybody actually knows what that is. And it's pretty simple. It's how we do it around here, right? It's what we do in our business, in our shop. And, as the owner, we set that, right? It's up to us to demonstrate it, live it, share it with our team, so that, and our clients and customers for that matter, right? So everybody understands, how we do it around here. And once you get that buy-in and everybody is, pulling that rope in the same direction, it does make things a little easier in your business. And that falling in love part, again, I think what happens is, as time goes by, it just becomes day to day, right? Just like anything else, that initial excitement when you first either bought the shop or started the shop, the problem solving, the being there for people, all of a sudden you look back and you go, I miss those days. I miss that excitement. How do I get it back? And we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But when you don't have that excite and drive that you initially had, changes the culture in your shop. You need to show up every day like rock and roll, baby. Here we go. Right? No bad days, right? Service advisors, shop owners, no bad days. It bleeds over to everybody else. So, and it's hard. I get it. It's hard. Believe me.
I got to interrupt Dave. And for all of us, when he says no bad days, and I wasn't going to say a thing about culture until you said that, Dave. Culture was described to me as the weather in the shop. Okay, no bad days. What about the thunderstorm going off in Bay 3? It's not because the weather came inside. It's the person that's making the weather that's creating a bad day for the shop. You could have 3 bays with sunny and beautiful weather, and now you've got one bad one. So it's the behavior of that individual that is driving, if you will, let's call it culture, or the behaviors of that operation. So thanks for bringing that up. I think it's important. And a lot of people, to your point, they can't put a finger on what culture is. I think you nailed it. And I hear sometimes it's our behaviors. And if we want to behave badly, but again, it still goes back to the leader and the tone that the leader sets and the expectations of the leader and the processes that have been, implemented to make sure that the client gets a great experience. Oh, let's talk about the client experience. How's the experience of our people inside of our own business? One of the things that, Dave, I saw you, and Jimmy, I'm going to get to you in a minute, but take a break from the shop, you told me. My God, I think that's brilliant. We're workaholics. This whole industry is like that.
Unfortunately, in many cases it's true, but generally not true that if I go away, the shop will die or won't survive or can't live without me. And if that's true, there's solutions for that. But, mostly no. If you have the good culture, the great culture in your shop, and you've, worked with your team and trained your team, and you're like, oh man, I got to go to work again. That is going to carry over. So, take a day off, take a week off, right? Whatever you need to kind of reset that perspective. We let ourselves get beat up by like you said, the thunderstorm in Bay 3, right? And that breaks us down inside, and we forget about the great Bay 1 and 2 that are doing so well and having a great day. We have a disgruntled, upset customer, a bad review, right? We let that break our hearts. And it's like, Yeah, it happens. But guess what? 80, 90% of our customers and clients love us. Concentrate on them. Let that group of people reinvigorate you and bring you up and say, okay, we got a bad review. What happened? Let's fix it. If it's truly our fault, right? If a customer is upset, how do we fix it? How do we solve it? Let's make somebody happy. And then that, comes back to us and we can feel good about what we did and enjoy that day rather than being hangdog. And then, like I said, get out of the shop, take a day off, go for a bike ride, go to the gym in the morning, something that clears your mind, clears your soul, and you can come back and have that upbeat attitude again and keep everybody happy, keep everybody moving.
Okay, Jimmy, help me with this. Dave just outlined some incredible stuff, okay? He just did. And 50% of my audience, I'm going to make an assumption, says, great, Dave, good. Thanks for all the junk inside of my head, but I'm never going to be able to do that stuff. I don't know how. Jimmy, how do you do that?
Going back to what he said about culture and what I said before, making the game bigger than what you thought was possible, you have to step away from the grind to be able to have that view.
But how do you get to the gym, Jimmy? How do you make those changes? Dave, I love what you said. And, tomorrow I'm going to go join a gym or tomorrow I'm going to go, on a walk or run a mile or two. And I have the bestest intention of the world. And I believe a lot of our listeners do, but they just can't take that first step. And maybe that's part of this whole fall in love with your business again mentality. I have to change who I am and how I do things.
Well, the thing is that research coming out now about the importance of rest and sleep. It's not a matter of I can't do it. It's I have to do it. Like you have to be able to step away, even if that's shutting down for the weekends and not looking at your phone, not looking at your emails and having that time away and actually not thinking about the shop. And it's really hard in a family business, especially like with my wife and I. My dad taught me years ago, you leave it at the shop, and if you try and bring it home, then you're living in that all the time. You don't get any distance to be able to see the forest through the trees, right? And that time away, even if it's short amounts of time or space away from the shop, allows you to take that 20, 30,000 foot view and go, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? What am I excited about? You know what I mean? Carm, you were in the Wayne Gretzky keynote at Apex, and one of the things that stuck with me, I'm a hockey guy, right? So Wayne Gretzky, I've been following him since I was a kid. And he said the number one thing that he learned as a leader was that the coaches would come to him and say, I've got to get you and Mario to believe we can win the Olympics. And if I have you guys believing that we can do it, then everything will fall into place and everybody will fall in. Well, who's setting that in your shop of the bigger game? And then getting the key people to get excited about what we're doing and then getting them to believe. And then things start falling into place. But if the owner doesn't take time to get away and actually start thinking bigger than what's going on in the day-to-day operations, you literally can't.
Jimmy reminded me of something that I learned on one of the podcasts, Carm, from you, one of the speakers. So it was a podcast about, husband, wife, shop owners, working together. Those of us that have a spouse, we understand, right? 24 hours a day, you kind of get on each other's nerves, right? So, when you're working together too, even worse. So, and if there is friction there, that hurts the culture. There was one tool that one of the couples had talked about that, when they leave the house in the morning, they don't talk business. They don't talk about the shop day. They don't talk about what's happening that day until they hit a certain intersection on the way to the shop, right? Okay. Yeah, right. There you go. Now we're at work, right? And then the opposite on the way home, right? They could talk about the day, talk about what happened, hit that intersection, we're done, right? We're talking about what's for dinner, what's going on this weekend, how are the kids doing, right? What typical families do that don't spend 24 hours a day together, right? So, and it was very successful for them. And, I'm sure we've all seen it, over the years where, you have a husband-wife team and it's hard for them, right? So having some tools to reset that, distance yourself, clear your mind, and then now you're not bringing that pain and anguish to your shop and bringing down the culture, right? And so, you're staying in love with your business rather than having to fall in love with it, right?
Hey, let's face it. Your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NAPA Trax, that's NAPATRACS.com. Hey, Carm here, suggesting you discover a smarter way to train your entire automotive team. Experience powerful, bite-sized training sessions accessible from any device in just 5 minutes daily. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Today's class prepares your shop for sustained success by reinforcing crucial knowledge. Plus, add a competitive edge with our leaderboard to make learning fun and rewarding for everyone. For effective training that delivers, turn to todaysclass.com. Shop owners, we know you are overwhelmed with a flood of missed calls, empty bays, and disconnected marketing tools. KUKUI has spent over a decade building one integrated platform for auto repair shops, one login, one dashboard, and mobile-first websites that convert 4 times industry average. Smart, innovative CRM with automated follow-up, 24/7 online booking, and real-time ROI tracking. With 900-plus years of combined team experience, we fuel the growth of 2,200-plus shops and have influenced $3 billion in revenue. Stop working harder. Start working smarter. Get industry-leading customer support and book a demo with KUKUI. That's KUKUI.com. You know, most shop owners feel trapped, spending on ads while half their first-time customers never come back. It's frustrating. It's exhausting. And it's not your fault. The industry average is 54% one and dones. We understand how discouraging that can be. Well, Pit Crew Loyalty changes the story. Our clients cut that rate by up to 38%, raising lifetime value by more than 50%. Loyalty members visit nearly 3 times more often, creating predictable revenue without extra ad spend. Pit Crew Loyalty, where customers stay and shops thrive. On the web at pitcrewloyalty.com. Guys, you just gave me a hell of an idea. This whole wife thing. And I would love to know the stat in our industry is how many wives are involved in the business. And I believe there's more than we really think about. I happen to know here in Buffalo a ton of shop owners, and I'm going to guess maybe 40 or 45% the wife's involved. And the thought that I just had about how do I get started, Dave? You know, great idea. Let's go to the gym. Let's reinvent ourselves so that we can maybe learn to love our business all over again. If it's not grinding on us, if we can't make money, is maybe use the wife to help you do that, or the spouse, significant other, whatever, however it works. And maybe that's part of how it would work. And then I have a really funny side note. Great friend of mine, a coach, Rick White, he did a class at Apex. And I said, Rick, what are you teaching here? And he goes, I think he said he had 3. And one of them is how to work with your wife. I think that's what it was. How to enjoy working with your wife. And he says, Carm, all I have is one slide. And I put it up right at the beginning. He says, just listen to her.
It's true, though. You know, I mean, like a lot of that started 30 years ago with the coaching companies. You know, it was like you get a shop owner back in those days. They were wrenching, they were selling, they were doing everything, working 6-7 days a week. And one of the solutions was bring somebody in here that will not allow this person to give the shop away, and that can do some organizing, will, you know, help with some of the bookkeeping items, things like that typically shop owners aren't great at or don't even want to know how to do. I mean, at first, when my dad started with a coaching company, my mom had never worked in the business. And of course, I got involved in the business in about 2000. I was living at home when I first moved home. And of course, my mom's in the business. I'm in the business. My dad's in the business. And that's where I learned this lesson. Was one day my mom and I were both at him about this and about that. And he finally just slammed his hand on the table and he said, enough. He goes, for 25 years, I have not brought this work home with me, and we are not going to start now. And that was it. And I tell that story all the time because I love that example of the husband and wife having that policy. Look, when we get here, we stop talking about this. Now it's a different dynamic of life. We have our business and we have our family, and family business, unfortunately, it always intermingles, but you got to have strict policy about separating them. Look, a lot of divorces, a lot of businesses fail because of family business.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Marriages and or businesses fail, right? Yeah, both ways. Worst case, both.
You're right, Dave. And I think about some of the wives that I know that work with their husbands drive separately. So there is no demarc zone, but I don't believe they bring it home. But yet a very, very good friend has his office in his basement of his house. He is trying to take more time off, but he still wants to be engaged and involved and be on the computer systems and stuff. So he's not there. And again, that whole new came through my head about just getting away, not being there. At least you could be engaged, but not there. So when you're there, you're sometimes wanting to be a micromanager and into everything. Anyway, I had this fleeting thought, guys, work with me on this. Fall in love with your business all over again. And if I said, think about falling in love with all the new technology, with all your clients, go out front, talk to them, find out what's going on in their life. How about your people's lives? What's going on with them? I mean, if, culture, I love to come to work because they care about who I am, not only in all that I do to make us a great company, but they care about the fact that I want to buy myself a motorcycle someday, and they're helping me try to do that. And what about falling in love with community, getting involved with community? So if some of these, and again, there's probably 10 more of these crazy ideas we could throw up, but if anyone is struggling and they're not happy about the world they've created for themselves, then to everyone's point here, take a step back and write a new strategic plan for your world and your life and your love to, again, fall in love with your business all over again. Am I crazy? Am I thinking here?
No, I think you're spot on. Yeah. And I do want to be clear. I'm not diminishing the extreme effort it takes to do what we're talking about. It's a process. It's a road to travel, right? As a shop owner, when I first bought my shop, right, I was the service advisor, the lead tech, and the business owner, and I, the bathroom cleaner, and the floor sweeper, and so on and so forth, right? I had one tech working for me. There was zero chance I was taking any time off. The only time off we took a year off, we closed the shop because there was nobody to do my job. And I'm sure that's a very common story across the industry, but I think it's a common story too of, effort, training, learning to do better. And that's where that excitement comes from, of that growth of, hey, guess what? I'm ready to hire another technician to replace myself in the shop. Guess what? I'm ready to hire a service advisor to replace myself in the shop. And then I can, do, as we talked about, I don't have to deal with customers on a day-to-day basis. I deal with the ones I choose to. I call it playing with the customers, right? It's, it's like, hey, how you doing? How are the kids? Right? That fun side that we can have and have the people that we've trained and work so well for us do the hard stuff, the day-to-day hard stuff. I guess, saying that tongue in cheek, but if there's a customer with an issue, rarely do I talk to him, right? It's like, Eddie, it's your job. You talk to him, and he's happy to do it. He knows it's his job. It relieves a lot off of me, which makes me a happier boss.
When I first started taking over as manager of the shop, and I'm going in here, I wanted to build a team culture. I was a hockey player. I wanted it to be like the locker room feel when you come in the morning. And I was getting some resistance from really just one or two guys. And I was so frustrated. I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm done with this. And my dad's like, why? And he said, look, Jimmy, he goes, if you don't like something about this shop, it's ours. We create this. So if you don't like an employee, replace them. If you don't like where your office is at, move it. You don't like the color of the building, paint it. He's like, we have complete control of our business, and that was a real eye-opening experience for me because it was really just coming from one person. And when we decided to part ways with that person, things completely changed. And I never forgot about that. It's like, that saying, it's just somebody, you said, how you doing? Oh, living the dream. Mm-hmm. And I always say, well, when I'm saying that to myself, I say, I'm living my dream. And whether that's good or bad, it's mine. I got to take ownership for it. So as hard as it can be to say, I've got to change what I'm doing, it's also got to be a responsibility. Like, why are you putting up with it the way that it is? It is your creation. That's the hard truth of it. It's your creation, that the conditions that it's in. And at the same time, you have the power and the ability to make a decision, a change of decision on how that business is going to treat you, treat the employees, treat the customers, and make sure that everybody's winning in that environment.
I got to tell you, I just had this big takeaway from what you just said, Jimmy. The whole concept of this episode is falling in love with your business again, all over again, right? And I wrote down reinvention. And when I heard Jimmy just go through, he reinvented his team by letting someone go, challenging himself to go out and find someone that could come in. And again, he's going to be so careful on the culture and the fit this next time. But going back to get involved with technology and clients and community and your people's lives is reinventing who you are. Everyone around you is going to look and see, whoa, what's going on with Jimmy? What's going on with Dave? And it's good that the word amongst the team is, hey, wow, what's going on? That's a positive because you're creating a pulse, if you will, maybe a bigger, stronger pumping heart than you ever had before, because you've taken your focus from, hey, did you get that right? You didn't use that tool good. Hey, how come we didn't get that? And here it is, you're the conductor of a maybe not good orchestra, old instruments. Oh, I'm not being negative here. But when I go back to the reinvention, like you said, make the game a much bigger game, Jimmy, that's kind of almost like reinventing the game board for you. And the thing that I worry about is, I got so many things on my mind, Dave. You just said, listen, go hire this person, hire that person. And the best excuse I've ever heard is can't afford.
Scariest thing I ever did was hire another technician, right? That was the first scariest thing I ever did because I'm literally doubling my payroll. And I get that, right? It's super hard, but guess what? It worked, right? And I think, and same thing, right? Hiring and it was worse to hire a service advisor because, I'm the guy, right? People know me, love me. And I think that, they want to talk to me all the time and nobody else is going to do it the way I'm going to do it. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Nobody else is going to do it the way you're going to do it. They're going to do it their way. So super scary to do that. But like I said, right, I'm wearing 3 hats in the shop, right? Okay, I'm going to take one of those hats off. Well, guess what? Now I can do a much better job at the other 2 hats, which means that we're going to get more business. We're going to be better in our pricing. We're going to be better in our sales techniques and our customer service techniques. And then, take that service advisor hat off and only wearing the business owner hat. I have 8 hours a day to work on the business as we're always taught and told rather than in the business, right? So, again, marketing can be better. I'm keeping track of pricing. We're not falling behind on what we keep in inventory and, that oil filter that we stock that we used to pay $2 for, now we pay $5 for, but we're still only charging $6.99 for, right? That kind of thing, right? All of those things that fall through the cracks. And guess what? Now you can afford that person by making the business a better place, that new adventure, that new growth. It just works as long as you have the skills and to do it. And then that goes back to the training. If as a shop owner, most of us, you came up as technicians, right? We don't know how to run a business. We, skin in the teeth. But, getting a good training program and a good coach for yourself is paramount. And again, how do I afford a coach? Well, the first job of a coach is to afford the coach, right? So none of this works just because. It takes training time and effort.
It does. I mean, you're talking like what you said there, Dave, was so true. Like, it's like, how do I shed some of these hats? And the thing is a lot of it could be a cost issue, but it's also how comfortable the owner is in doing all those things. So it's just easier to do it myself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things that I work on with friends and clients is that, okay, you're the best at that. Have you documented how you want that done? Exactly. And then turn it over to somebody, because it's real easy to just go in there and do it yourself. I mean, I was not a technician, so I didn't go in the back. But there's so many other things that I am really good at. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at the financial bookkeeping and things like that. And I can go in there and be just time consumed with stuff that isn't going to make us that much more money. Instead of like going out into the community where I should be with my wife, shaking hands and kissing babies. And when there's a problem, that I've hired somebody to do that takes a lot of pride in handling that customer to get a better result than I would. It really is. But it does take some help. Like, why isn't the owner being the owner? Because the owner doesn't know what his hat is as the owner.
That's a great point. And I got to make a comment on something you said, Dave. You said, I got to hire somebody. It's my way. And then he comes on board and he'll do it his way. And my initial thought was, no, he'll do it our way. Think about the power of that. The only way you're going to keep a handle on the structure of the business is by doing it our way. And you may have, this person could come in with some really nice, positive ideas and new processes, but until he knows your way or our way, can you bring on his? But businesses morph. When new talent comes in, new ideas come in, they become better as a unit.
And that's the distressingly exciting part of those growth leaps of, doubling your payroll, right, of your technicians. So it's going to keep you awake at night, right? But I try and always circle back to those, first few months of owning my business after I bought my business, and just that, that energy, that drive to succeed, right? It's scary, super scary, right? Because all of a sudden, as a technician, if it's not working out where you are, you just get a job somewhere else. Last I checked, nobody's hiring business owners. So you have to make it work and learn how to make it work and keep it exciting. Like the new technologies you're talking about, Carm, right? As the owner, I have the time, if I choose to, look into those things, learn about those things. I'm necessarily going to be the implementer of the new technologies, but understanding that this is where the world is, and maybe this affects my marketing of, the Bay Area here, San Jose, right? We're hip deep in EVs, right? More so than anywhere else in the country. And am I afraid of them? No, right? Because we've worked over the years to keep up on the training, keep up on the knowledge, so that when they call, with a Nissan Leaf or, whatever, right? The Hyundai, we can fix it. We can say, yes, bring it in, right? We're prepared. We're not afraid, to take on that new adventure.
This is a topic I think we can go on for 2 hours about how to fall in love with your business all over again. And if someone doesn't get it, and again, I go over this ad nauseum on a lot of my shows, is that you need to hire yourself a coach or an accountability partner or join a networking group and stretch yourself. Because if you can reinvent who you are or improve or advance who you are, you're really reinventing your business. You're reinventing yourself. And I think maybe the operative word here is falling in love with your business all over again, is falling in love with you and your ability to lead and run and manage a business all over again. Even though you were excited in early days and there's a lot you didn't know, as you grew your business, there was an implosion on top of you of things you needed to stay up with and maybe you didn't. So to all of your points, to pull back may help you reinvent who you are, which ultimately reinvents your business. Am I smoking dope here or what?
You have it right. As the industry, we've done a pretty good job of training owners to be managers. That next leap of becoming like a CEO is really another level of training, because to be a CEO stands for Chief Executive Officer. Well, if you're the chief and you're everything else underneath the chief, you're really not the chief. So really, and that goes back to my original thing. It was like, make it big enough to where you need people underneath you that are the managers that are running those areas fully. And yes, it has to be documented on the way you want it. It's your culture, it's your policy, and things like that. And those things they're going to evolve, and you're going to bring people in that they have their way of doing it, but it falls within the policy of the way you want something done. That's evolution, and we can't be afraid of that. We can't be afraid of having somebody come in and having their way of talking to a customer, as long as they get the product of what you want, which is a happy customer that comes back again and again and spends money. I don't really care, as long as they're staying on the rails of our policy. But it does take that. It is another level. You look at why don't shops expand out into multiple locations? And that's one of the reasons, is they're not really looking at from the CEO's perspective and going, I've got to have managers. I've got multiple people reporting to me. And, for me, that's been a big game changer in the necessity level coming up, because, necessity is the mother of invention. You talk about how am I going to afford a coach? Well, you're doing it the way you're doing it now and getting what you've got. something's got to change. And there's thousands and thousands of shops out there that have paid a lot of money for coaching. That coach's job, like Dave said, the first job of the coach is to be able to afford the coach. But it's also the mindset and the decision from the owner, like, I've got to be able to afford this. I've got to be able to make this work. That change of mindset of necessity will change the way that you do things.
I like the word evolution, Jimmy. Yeah, that really describes the process that our businesses need to be going through. You get what you got, and you're going to keep getting that if you just keep doing it the same way, right? So, to evolve, to grow, again, don't want to diminish it. It's not easy. It's scary. But that part of being the CEO, being the business owner, is the hard things, right? The really hard things of making those big decisions of, is this the right person in the position, right? And, especially in a management type position, right? Or a, even a technician, right? If it's not a behavioral or personality issue, I really want to work with that person, get them the training they need. Let's keep them with us, right? Because it's better for everybody in that respect. But at some point, you got to make a change. And that's hard. You can't slough off the hard stuff. Otherwise, you won't grow. You won't evolve.
Dave, what you just said about a minute ago was exactly what I wrote down based on what I heard Jimmy say. And I think it's a great way to end this episode. We cannot solve the world's crises, but hopefully on an individual basis, if anyone listens to our podcast, and we've been saying this for 10 years, listen to learn just one thing. But the final thought on that is, and implement it. If you fall in love with something and you learn something, please implement it. And I think what you said, Jimmy, was the word evolution. And I wrote down the evolution of you. And I think that's how you have to learn about falling in love with your business again and being a bigger, better, stronger leader, but then finding some other things that would pique your interest to keep yourself fresh. And it's the evolution of you. Great fitting end to this. Jimmy Alauria, 3A Automotive and Diesel Repair, Phoenix, Arizona, where it's always just beautiful weather. And Dave Kusa, owner of Auto Trend Diagnostics, Campbell, California, and little old Carm Capriato. And don't forget to download our app. Please go to my website, remarkableresults.biz/app, or the brand new site for the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.com. You'll see app stuff all over that where you can download it to your smartphone. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Appreciate your time and your friendship.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Carm. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive repair business podcast, Remarkable Results Radio. Get your episodic education on the ARPN listening app at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com. Also enjoy the podcast on our Carm Capriato YouTube channel. Carm is all for advancing the professional automotive service industry. Until next time.